Council will start here within the next minute. Call the Henry County Council meeting to order for November 17th, 2022. If you'd please stand, Betsy Mills will lead us in a pledge and Susan with prayer. I will mention that Councilman Harold Griffin is not with us. He is ill, and I shared that with council members, but if you keep him in your thoughts and prayers, he had bronchitis and was hospitalized for a period of time. And when I spoke to him yesterday, he's still got some recovery ahead of him, so please keep Harold Griffin in your prayers. Council, if you've had a chance to read over the fairly lengthy and detailed minutes of our October 2022 council meeting, are there any additions or corrections that should be made to those minutes? If not, take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Susan.
Second.
Second by Peggy. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you. Corey's not here, but we have Penny. Penny told me yesterday that Corey would not be here. I think he's getting some professional development. So Penny's got some news for us.
No, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend yesterday. I read through all the notes you sent, but I was over at Ball State representing us at the community development training. It's been great. It's been really good. No, we have half a day tomorrow, and it's me and Bobby from Commissioners and Rex Peckinpah from City Council. So it's been really valuable. I really appreciate it. When I was looking through the notes that you sent, do you know which build type? Like, do they want to go to the high end or the low end? Do you anticipate that they would ask for an abatement?
I can't really anticipate anything. I think they might ask. They need about.
Did you want to say anything about the tour to the cobblestone facility in Brookville? It sounds as if this goes through, we would be the largest cobblestone in Indiana to date, because the others, as you said, I think are 44, and they're looking at 66. He did mention, Chris, that was his name, Chris mentioned that the average group of investors was between 5 and 12. They have over 150 hotels in the country now. They've grown fairly quickly, stable during COVID, but they've grown quickly before COVID and since COVID. 5 and 12. So if we is the average as far as the investor group that makes the decision. So 3 million, 12. That's 250,000 to get into it. So it's not for retired educators like myself. But there are people in the community that could look at that as a legitimate investment because their model looks pretty. I think even Duke said the model looks pretty appealing. and their success level has been pretty substantial for prospective investors. So. And we need more quality hotel rooms.
You did better than Corey because you gave it all to us in such a concise time frame. So
Thanks for the cliff notes.
give him some extra lessons. No, I think it's phenomenal. That's something we've all been pushing for years because there isn't. That was something I said years ago because I used to travel all over the place. And if you searched for Newcastle, you found Anderson, Greenfield, Muncie. You didn't. If you went on to Travelocity or any of the traveling sites, nothing in Newcastle would show up.
I just wanted to say at the Ball State training that we've been at, Make My Move has come up several times, and different different people from community foundations from all over the state have been looking at our package and been really, really interested in this. And who came up with the list of incentives?
We put our heads together and did.
It's great. It's especially compared to other communities. It's really, really good.
R&D from other communities. We would look on the website and we think, okay, so who do we know that would be able to help us with something? So, there's people that are more involved and interested in giving gift certificates, gift cards, helping with the incentives. But certainly some of those will be things that we do pay all the vendors.
That's great. You guys did a great job.
Thank you. I know Chris said he stayed in Greenfield Hotel. Yeah, that's where you look up Travelocity and Expedia. You find them in Greenfield, Anderson, Richmond, not in Newcastle, Indiana. Chamber, I do not see Shonda. I do not see Cindy Brooks. So moving on. Transfer of funds, Henry County Memorial Park. You have before you request from different accounts to transfer $8,000 for the remaining payment of preferred contracting solution for the repair of a golf cabin. Started on the 7th of this month. First $8,000 was paid from the Parks Golf Course Fund, $13,000 for necessary repairs to the superintendent's home, for furnace repair, maintenance, electrical work, and some flooring replacement. Gas and electric, $28.76 for increased utility bills. We're getting those quite a bit as far as transfers for utility, and we'll probably continue to do so during the winter. Do we have any questions? We have representatives from the park here. We put this on pause to get a little bit of more information, and we have conversed with Joel. So I would ask if you have questions or would ask for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Again, Susan makes a motion to approve these transfers.
And Joel, can you clarify? I mean, I know that we tabled this because there was a lingering question. Where do we currently stand?
I'm comfortable with you approving the transfer.
Okay.
So it's been moved. Do I have a second? Going once. As chair, can I second? I will second the motion to transfer these funds, pretty much as we do other requests for transfer of monies.
I guess I would want to ask a point of discussion, and I'm not sure if a commissioner is sitting over there. I can't see. Is Bobby or any of the commissioners? There's Ed. Has a decision been made on the disposition of the house? I mean, I don't want to put a bunch of repairs into something you guys are going to do something differently on. That's my concern in the transfer. So does the commissioners at all have to approve anything to do with that as they did with like the Smith building and other things when I was involved in that and major repairs and all of those types of things, Joel? Because I'm just using the Smith building as an example because, again, it's another building inside the park, and I know that went in front of the commissioners, and the commissioners were the ones that stopped Steel from continuing forward, even though the park board wanted to continue forward at the time with doing the project. So that's, I mean, my concern. And my secondary question is, could we as a council, I know a motion's already been made, but could a motion be made to approve these pending the approval of the commissioners? Or is that overstepping some authority to the commissioners? That was a lot of legal terms. So my question is back to, let me make it simple. Would this have to go in front of the commissioners at any point? And if so, would it be advantageous for us to make that motion in that aspect? Well, I just know because I sat on that side of the bench during the Steel Corps thing. I was the park board president. And at the time, we were advised that by legal counsel that the commissioners had control and that they could stop the project, even though we wanted to continue with Steel Corps and were willing to jump through those additional hoops. They had the ultimate decision-making power. And so that's what I'm coming, because I'd hate to do a bunch of repairs and then the three commissioners next year totally change their mind and say that we've put tens of thousands of dollars in a building that's going to stay empty. That's my only concern.
So I guess I have a similar concern that this will generate fighting, which I don't want to see happen. But with Joel's decision that he has just told us, and considering that we generally grant transfers within departments' budgets as requested, and knowing that the park board unanimously wants this to happen, I still think that it would be a good thing for the council to approve it. And I hope that it's something that happens and works out well for the park. I hope it doesn't generate more controversy.
So you stick with your motion. I stick with my second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of these transfers, aye?
Aye.
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 Let's do a roll call. Unless I see your lips. Raise the hands of those who voted aye. 3, 4, 5. Nay? 1. Passes 5 to 1. Okay, thank you. And thank you for the additional information and insights, Joe. Transfer of Henry County Surveyor. Steve is here. Questions we have before us. I call this 2A, the first paragraph of transfers. This is 49 from travel, training to motor vehicle supplies, 200 from office supplies to motor vehicle supplies, 150 from postage to motor vehicle supplies. And again, we've been getting similar requests from other departments because of increased cost and inflation and whatnot. So do I have a motion to approve these 3 transfers from the Surveyor's Department?
So moved.
Moved by Betsy. Do I have a
Second.
second? Second by Susan. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. I'll call this Part B. This is postings between funds for control and detail ledger books, transfer of $82,835.18 from the 2700 drain maintenance to the 1158 general drain fund. Council, this isn't normal. Are there any questions? Steve's here. Or I would entertain a motion to approve.
I actually think I understand this request this year. He's explained it to us a few times now, so I
Yeah,
get it.
we have had explanations. It just never made it this far in a transfer that I recall. So again, if there are no
Make a motion
questions,
to approve.
that was you, Susan? Oh, who made that? Susan did make that. Okay. Again, not seeing you. Okay. It's been moved by Susan and seconded by Kyle. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. We took up at the last meeting, this would be official motion and approval relating to the prosecutor's office for the part-time investigator. Kathy was here, we discussed that. It's a request for an additional $2,000 appropriation from part-time account for part-time pay for the investigator for the prosecutor, which was Scott Pinkerton. If there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Kyle.
Second.
Second.
I think Chad beat you by a half second. Seconded by Chad. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 6-0. Ordinance 2022-15, and ordinance approval of the transfer of funds for county attorney fees. You have before you, whereas the budget adopted 2022 provides for an amount of funds to be utilized by the Henry County Council for the procurement of legal services, and whereas the county council has determined that additional amounts are needed to pay for legal services during 2022, whereas the county council has determined that the budget for the Board of Commissioners has sufficient funds allocated for the payment of legal fees for 2022, that is a portion of the amount allocated for the payment of legal fees for the Board of Commissioners should be allocated to the budget of the Henry County Council for payment of fees, a sum of $10,000. It shows the department offices from commissioners to council. This was, I think, brought up by Susan Hoon at our October 20th meeting. The rest of the ordinance is a repealer, severability, effective date, which would be today if passed, and signed if passed. Questions, comments, motion, and Joel is here if there are legal questions.
I have just one comment that the sum was actually $15,000, and I didn't catch that when Joel sent this to me. So I would make a motion to amend the sum to $15,000, which is what we voted for in September.
Second.
Okay.
So there must have been some big changes, because it says, yeah, because the budgetary status you sent us on October 17th had $131,000 budget balance.
Was that in what
Imagine
you
that.
sent to us earlier this week, the update? Because you sent us the entire budget.
We just did this yesterday or today? I think it was yesterday we did that, we had to pay the bills for this
Okay.
secured detention.
Well, you sent 2 days ago. I didn't see that there was an insufficient balance, so I might have come out since then. Okay. Why don't we move on? Because sometimes that takes a few minutes, and we'll progress. Approval of expenditures of revenue received from the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. Okay. There are some questions at the beginning of the meeting. I think Joel said it was addressed, it was the legal fee, the $1 million originally, and you said it was addressed under item number 1 in Exhibit A, I believe. Okay.
So I think it was about a total of, out of that original million was allocated legal fees, about $990,000 reallocated.
Right. And 16 was 660,000 and change for repair of an improvement of highways. Roughly 165,000 for improvement of repair of buildings, ponds, or infrastructure at Memorial Park. And the same amount of 165,000 and changed to assist volunteer fire departments located in Henry County, authorized in a resolution of 525-2022-12. So between 1 and 16, it is addressed in here. And new, I believe, to us, if I remember right from last month, are number 25, the 30,000, and number 26, the 1160 for EIRPC. So what we're considering today is item 25 from ARPA, additional sum of $30,000 for the acquisition of a vehicle for use by the county building inspector, and noted back to resolution number 16, which was in July, of up to $60,000 was allocated for the purchase of vehicles for weights and measure and building inspector. The vehicle acquired for weights and measure turned out to be $47,000, as used vehicles are almost as high as new vehicles, and new vehicles are hard to get in the supply chain. Thus, additional amounts are required to purchase a comparable vehicle for use by the building inspector authorized in our October meeting. And number 26, the sum of $11,060 to contribute, this is again from ARPA, to the cost of the annual membership for 2023 dues for the county's participation in the Eastern Indiana Regional Planning Commission. Questions, or take a move for a motion to approve?
So moved.
And that was Susan again? I'm almost recognizing your voice. And do we have a second?
Second.
Moved by Susan, seconded by Kyle. Any other discussion?
Just regarding the EIRPC membership, the training we're doing with the Ball State Indiana Community Group, and it's all about development of community, and it's amazing how much the curriculum lines up with the comprehensive economic development strategy that EIRPC came up with this year, which is incredibly thorough, and I hope everybody on council has read. It's just nice to hear reinforcement of what we've been hearing, and I think there's a lot to come in 2023.
Okay, so there's correlation between the two endeavors and what's being promoted as best practices then. So, and I think, I don't remember what it stands for, but the SEDS report that we got back in early October,
Yeah, that's the comprehensive economic development strategy.
that's what it stands for.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. You were part of the discussion. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 6-0. Okay, and so I haven't had a chance, anyone else have a chance to look over what Debbie just handed us?
I did, so I have a question, because the total current year-to-date actual did not change at all, just the current balance. So you transferred money but didn't pay any bill? Okay, but that's what I'm saying, the secured attention, current actual didn't change. Oh. And how much was that bill?
We're talking about $60,000 or $70,000? Okay. Because we had insufficient beds at YOC, is that it? Okay. I will say I attend JDAI meetings, and Susan Lightfoot mentioned that we were probably going to run short because it was pretty heavy this year as far as referrals to YOC. Didn't know how many, didn't know how much, but apparently the day of reckoning, we do know how much, and that it's considerably over. Is that because of severity or lack of beds? Well, the sheriff sitting next to you know all about lack of beds in other counties. And those were hefty bills too, weren't they? Thank goodness we have a new correctional facility. It didn't take as long last time for Debbie, so let's, so that may be a little longer this time. Okay, let's see we have an ordinance fixing the number of this is the salary ordinance for 2023. Okay, council, you received a very lengthy spreadsheet of 60 pages a couple of days ago. I saw a couple of minor corrections that doesn't really affect amounts, just headings and people's names, which are constantly changing, so nothing as far as budgetary. Susan, could you, I don't want to put you on the spot, but could you you and Chad, as I recall, back in September met, and there were 4 positions that you kind of, I say, press pause on, because we had some outstanding questions. One was the park superintendent, one was Kathy Eek, the public defender's office. Do you recall the other 2, Chad or Susan?
I feel like the highway, well, Joe,
Because of the contract?
because it's their
And
contract, that's why
Randolph
we waited
County
on
was
Kathy.
involved?
Right.
And there was a 4th one?
I'm checking my notes.
Okay. I didn't put two and two together when I studied the itinerary, and the fact that I think everything was pinned down with the exception of 4 positions, and she named, and part of the park superintendent dealt with the home or not home, because we did get an updated report from Wagner, Irwin, Shealy on what that should be.
Yep, but I understand that that's gone back to Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy in a discussion with Commissioner Plummer this week.
Okay,
So that'll come back before the Job Classification Committee and then future meeting.
okay. And you don't know if, before you leave, if you have a job classification perhaps in December? Don't know yet?
I told Commissioner Plummer if it came back by then, we could hold one, but it's kind of at the mercy of Wagner, Irwin, Shealy at this point.
Okay. So their study is being looked at again?
Yeah, I understand there was some changes to the job description, so they sent it back again to them. Because there was an initial one that came back with no changes, and then there was
Okay.
one that the park board resubmitted with changes that went back to Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy. So
Okay,
we're still waiting on that one.
okay.
Ken, and the only other thing was the probation raises, which I think we've resolved now in previous meetings.
Yes, if
So
I remember
I think
right.
that was everything. So still this,
I believe,
still the park, and then,
which means it'll be addressed, it's just we haven't, because there's some
I
outstanding
know that
information.
the commissioners, passed Kathy's
The
new
2-year contract.
But I don't know that we've incorporated, I don't know if we, I haven't seen the contract, since they passed it, to see if it is what she discussed with, haven't followed up on that, and then I don't think we've given it to Debbie and asked her to
Okay.
update it, so.
There's a 2-year contract that's been with Kathy Eek, the public defender. Maybe Bobby's coming up, maybe she can.
I looked at the sheet, and I believe it has been updated, because I believe it was at 85, and now it's at 87,260.
I don't remember the number. I just remember that I don't know that we passed the contract. We passed the memorandum of understanding allowing the council to adjust raises on an annual basis. I don't think her contract's done until the end of the year. And again, I'm thinking we just passed the memorandum of understanding that said that that added the language, is that correct, Joel? That added the language that allowed the council, when we give everybody, you guys give everybody else a 3% raise or whatever, that she would also be included in that. Is
Okay.
what we passed.
So I guess as a question maybe for Joel and/or Debbie, is this something we could address in the December meeting? Because I know what she sent to the state is kind of the permanent. Did we get feedback from DLGF yet as to, no?
You can do this, but if you give raises, you'll have to do it in January as an additional appropriation because you didn't appropriate any extra money in the budget, or you'll have to cut somewhere to keep your budget numbers the same. But from here, you'll have to do it as an additional appropriation
Okay.
next year.
Okay, so back to the drawing board then. But in January, is that correct? So what we're talking about on the 4 has to be in January by law?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now, we have from Debbie, and we never took any motion on the salary ordinance, it just talked about it preliminary. So we have 62,400, 20,312.50, so 82,712 comes out of the number Chad was questioning, correct? Which leaves the balance as shown in. No, we were just talking about, while she was giving, I didn't know how long it took, and Bobby thought it might take quite a while to get the invoices because she had to go through claims. So we haven't yet, Chad. So we're back to the order of the itinerary, which has to do with the Juvenile Detention Center and our ordinance number 2022-15, which has to do with the transfer of $10,000, which there is a balance for that, I believe.
That was the motion. And then we're discussing.
We're discussing if we have
Yeah.
it. Correct?
I guess, so just still under discussion. It does inflate the legal line item a lot when we go to look at it next year. It looks like a great deal of money was spent on legal expenses. That doesn't include any of the council's legal expenses. It includes a lot of secured detention. So just in the area of trying to make an accurate budget, it's now, not accurate.
And secure detention, they've ran into a problem with YOC, which I'm sure you guys seen in the Lucky Star.
I haven't.
That YOC is no longer taking.
That sounds like there's a backstory to that. I need to get it.
I just know that that's what we ran into, and so.
I have not heard that.
I just think that the secure detention could really.
Mushroom. It will balloon.
So I guess from a philosophical perspective, when department heads are moving money around, in an ideal world, they wouldn't transfer out of one line item if they can't pay their bills still out of that line item. So they would have the opportunity to transfer out if they know they don't need money in that line item. If they're transferring out money they know they're going to be short in, then what they really need is additional funds that the council would like to be made aware of. Just thinking in my mind of, how the process would ideally work. So I guess in my mind, I think that the commissioners didn't really have that money in legal to transfer because the money was going out, we decided 2 months ago. And so what we really need is more money in secure detention. But I don't know how much we want to push it or fight about it, but.
Yeah, I'd like to know how we do that legally after the budget was approved.
I guess I would only remind everyone that the reason we're in this situation was the council only appropriated basically Joel's fees in the council budget. Always and forevermore, the Baker-Tilly bills, which is where these are boiling down to, were paid out of the commissioner's budget. Because while there are reports done for the council, there are also reports done for the county as a whole, because the auditor uses them, the entire county utilizes those reports. But that's why we ran short in the council, because the commissioners decided not to pay the Baker-Tilly bills out of their legal fund that it had always been paid out of. The legal fees are not overdrawn because of our attorney, Joel Harvey. They are bills that are always paid out of the commissioner's legal fund because they were Baker-Tilly and Lisa Lee and those type of bills that were always paid out of the commissioner's budget. So when the commissioners decided to no longer pay those and didn't inform us that at budget time, that's why we ran into this budget situation. That's why I just want to make sure that everyone understands that it's not Mr. Harvey's bill that we're paying in this situation.
So I think from my perspective, I leave my motion to amend the ordinance to 15,000 to move the funds. And if the commissioner's budget is overspent, then they'll need to come talk to the council about it.
So is it correct, Debbie, that the legal services balance with everything changed from the secured detention at 17,240 as of today under the Commissioner's legal services fund, 17,000?
$17,240.22 in legal fees.
And that's after the secured detention change?
We moved it to secure detention, which will be paid the first thing in the morning.
Okay. So there,
We can move that money back into the legal if that's what you want, not pay the secure detention. I mean, if the
I don't-
commissioners just said they needed the money because they had to pay the bill.
right.
And it's well within the legal parameters because it's a 3,000 fund to a 3,000 fund.
Okay.
This happens throughout the county
Right.
every day, that funds are moved within those
Correct.
without coming to the council. So I
Right.
want to make sure that everybody understands we're not doing anything under the table.
All
at
right.
all.
I didn't hear that.
We are allowed to move from like
Yes.
funds to like funds.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That training
I-
we've
I
had,
think-
that's correct.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that, but I think that sitting in this seat, if departments are moving money from one fund to another, knowing that that fund would be drained, then that's something the council wants
Well,
to.
we have a bill to pay, we pay the bill. If we have to come back for an additional appropriation, take the $15,000. We'll come back for additional appropriation because we still have 2 months of legal fees to pay. We'll come back for additional appropriation. I'm fine with it. Take the money.
And
Or you guys do an additional appropriation to fund yours. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. An additional appropriation will probably have to take place. I'm fine with it.
It was 6 1, half a dozen in another when we started this.
And I think also, you brought up Joel, I think, Chad, every time any department calls up, any entity in the county calls up Joel, he has to write down the amount of time, and there's a fee attached to the amount of time. So it's not just the commissioners and it's not just the council conferring with Joel. It's any department that has a legitimate legal question. You know, the meter's running. And that's the way his law offices operate, and every law office operates. So it's a little bit more to it than just 2 departments. There's a lot filtering in under legal services. The big monkey wrench in this one is the secured detention. I did not know about the monthly star, even though I get it online. Yeah, I haven't read the paper this week. That's where I didn't, because I get it online, Muncie Star, but I did not read that because that does affect us royally. So, Happy New Year, Council.
So I will second Susan's motion, Kennan.
She made a motion to go ahead with what we have written down, which...
She made a motion to amend it at 15,000, and I will second it.
Oh, the 10,000 amended to 15, and it's been seconded by Chad because that was the amount that she stated back in October. So it's been moved and seconded. The amended amount on ordinance number 2022-15 go from 10,000 to 15,000. Joel, Debbie, any other further discussion? If not, all in favor of that motion amended to 15,000 for that ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Peggy? Okay, it passes 5-1. And we'll be looking for more monies in December. And January. And February. We have added, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take the liberty, if the council doesn't have any objection of moving, no, never mind, let's just go in order. GIS position,
We need to go back to the salary ordinance, Kennan.
thank you. Yes. We introduced that and we never passed it.
I'll make a motion, we approve the salary ordinance as presented by the auditor.
Moved by Chad. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And that was Susan? That was Betsy? I heard two voices. Okay, choose between whoever hasn't given the most motions because they said it simultaneously. Any other discussion on the 2023 salary ordinance? If not, all in favor of the motion as presented to us ahead of time by the auditor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you, Chad, for bringing it to my attention. GIS, we received probably no fewer than 6 letters encouraging us to look at the GIS position, which has not been filled. It's been advertised by our Human Resources, by Ann. I don't know if there's been any interviews. Steve, you've been handling the interviews, I believe. You can give us an update as to the status, where we're at, and
As of August 1st, we advertised for this position because we lost the GIS person, which was making $44,774. She is now currently up to $72,000. That is right in the average. It's not the highest, it's not the lowest for a GIS person, skilled GIS person. We're at November 17th. We've had 3 people apply for this job. One got the job before we could get him interviewed. He got a job. One didn't show up. One did show up. And I think this person was more worried about what kind of a bonus he's going to get before he starts. The pay is just not even close to what this job really needs. I think you all received some letters from some of the elected officials and some of the department heads on how critical this is. I know we're short in money. Everybody needs raises, but I think we can all agree. We had a meeting on September 30th, brought all the department heads together and asked about it to get ideas. We've sort of struggled along. We hired Taylor to work part-time. She's kept up as best she can, but she will be done in 6 more weeks. So we're looking at either contracting this out at $135 an hour. I think there's a few people who want to speak. I think Butch and possibly the sheriff and Bobby on this give their ideas on it. And I think Butch will put a little highlight on it. These are probably 2 most important ones. Every department's important of using it, but I think the utilization of the 911 and the sheriff's department is very critical. We had something go down last week, and we've been down with something for probably a week, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. This GIS person, and even though we have a IT person on hand, this is not in his category. He relies upon this. I think you got a letter from him too. He relies upon this person to correct problems that he cannot figure out. A GIS person is different from an IT person. Okay, totally. So, in this, Butch, I'll let you talk first, and Bobby, you can go next, and then we'll discuss the options of what we need to do. I think we really need to look at this. Someone mentioned it needs to probably be up to an SO to get it up where it really needs to be. And we're really cutting corners here. So, I mean, we're getting down to the nitty-gritties. I don't think you're going to get anybody. I'll just be truthful with you. We've been at this almost 4 months now. We're not at anything.
Hey, Steve, before you run off, I do have a question.
Yeah.
I did get all the letters, and I did get a chance to read through them, and I appreciate everybody's involvement. That's awesome that you got everybody together. I didn't see anywhere in there in a number.
The price?
A number in mind, in your, that you think? I mean, because we did raise that.
Yeah.
For the 23 budget to 47,274.
Right.
But I mean, I know you mentioned 72 for Taylor, but I mean, it's tough because if you look at the reporting, we're right in the average almost on that one, on that position versus others. But I understand that it's
I think it's a supply and demand of what's going on now. I think we've seen it losing people out of the county because, I mean, you can go to Crown and work for $24 an hour right off the bat. That's what we're comparing to now, and it's a bad situation. I've never seen it that way, but it's getting the attitude now that it's negotiating the salaries anymore. It's not what you're going to pay. It's what you're going to give me when I come in. What can you give me, a bonus? How many weeks I get for vacation? I mean, it's totally different ballgame now than what we used to when we hired people. You offered what you had to offer them. That's what it was. And then you either took it or you didn't. Now it's not that way with these young kids, and I'm not busting on young kids. It's just the new way.
It's the new way. It's the economy we're in and the market we're in. And trust me, I hire people across the street, and it's the exact same boat we're in. So I totally get it. It's not, hey, this is our salary we offer. It's what negotiation can you do?
And we did discuss it with all the elected officials and everybody, and pretty much everybody agreed. This is a position that they all agreed that we really don't want to raise it that much, but to get a qualified person that's going to do a good job, it's going to be up in there just about where Taylor is, because she's on the low end of what I found when I called other counties, and even SJCA and some of these USI and some of these people, they're getting them. That's nothing. That's what they're doing right now. They're just throwing money on the table because they're not out there. And we're either going to do that or we're going to go to probably, I don't know if we can go to Snyder, but it's going to be $135 an hour. And I think by the time you do all the work that we got to have, some of this has got to be done quickly. We can do it in the house faster than we can get it done at Snyder. And some of that stuff's important, what's going to come up when Butch talks about it.
I have a quick question from what you just said. Is it an option to use Snyder until we fill the position if things get...
What was that again?
Is it an option to use Snyder until we fill the position?
We can, yeah.
They're able to do the work
Yeah, but the issue is it may not get done as quick. I mean, that's some of that stuff we need to turn over pretty quick. These 911 addresses and getting addresses, people are building houses, and we have to change address stuff, and I think that's what he's going to hit on. It's in-house is faster, because Butch just walks up there and says, I need this done, or send an email, and she did it. So...
Jeff pretty much covered what I was going to say, I guess, but that's okay. Or Steve, I mean. And it's not just the 911 addresses. There's 39 law enforcement agencies in this county. Most of them, the boundaries stay pretty much the same, but a lot of them, they change. I've got 2 agencies right now that I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they don't change until we get somebody. Because when they change the geographic area they're covering, then electronically it has to be changed in the geobase, and it has to be changed in the mapping system, and all that stuff comes out of the GIS. Taylor was good at it. Bruce was good at it. Taylor was faster than Bruce, but we got spoiled with her. Those maps, those maps have to be. It's just not the physical map that you look at. We've got those, but we've also got it's electronically in the CAD computer system, computer-aided dispatch, so that when it comes up, that call comes up, depending on where they're at, it tells the dispatcher what law enforcement, what fire agency, what EMS agency is to respond to that call. Well, if that doesn't get changed in a timely manner, we may send the wrong one because that's what's coming up. So right now, I think we're relatively okay. We've had a couple things that Taylor's been able to fix for us, on the fly in the evening type thing, but we've got this upgrade that the county's just embarked on last year, and they're still, in fact, they're over there working today, putting the radio and the phone system in, and with part of that comes a new mapping system, so there has to be a download from our map portal to their map portal, and that's not something that Brian, my IT guy, or Jeff has the expertise to set up. We're going to have a GIS certified person to be able to do that. And before that system gets completely done, that will have to take place. So, and I understand that money-wise, the situation everybody's in, but I sort of equate this sort of like maybe the county highway. Every once in a while you have somebody or a job position that there needs to be something adjusted to it so that you can attract the qualified person and not get a goober in here that doesn't do us any good. So, I mean, we've had a couple good ones, GIS people in the past. It's just unfortunate we couldn't hang on to the one that we had, but money talks sometimes. Don't think that you guys could ever pay the $70,000 for somebody, but it's got to get bumped up so that we can at least get some applicants who are willing to work for that fee, whatever that fee may be, and we can hire them and put them in there, and they can take care of not only 911, but you got there's 3 or 4 other entities that rely on the GIS section also.
Yes, we've got, we have letters similar to yours from Jenny and
Joni Brown.
others.
Is-
Six total. And they all expressed identical concerns that the need is great, and when Taylor leaves on her temporary assignment on an hourly basis, it's a very important position. And again, like Steve said, all positions are important, but we're not competitive in a lot of positions. That's why we have so many open positions, but we've got to strive to do better. Yes, Bobby?
I don't know that I can add more than what Butch said or Steve or the department head said. Y'all, and everybody understands that GIS touches almost every single department here in the county. The one thing we have not done yet, and I would like to ask for permission to do, is to send the job description to Wagner, Irwin, and Schilling about making it an SO so that the monies can be different than what it's classified at right now.
Chad, you had.
I mean, I don't think you need to send it, I think that can be done either through job classification or directly through here, honestly.
Okay.
Because the job description, unless the job description has made a change, to make a change, because, for example, when we changed the position at the highway department, we didn't go back to Wagner after, because they came back with the same. This body made the decision to vote and change that to an SO outside of Wagner. So that's
I thought
not
the job description changed. I couldn't remember. So.
that's not a necessity to do per se, especially in your time-sensitive situation.
I looked around and got one from Monroe County. They're big into GIS. They don't have as many drains and open ditches as we do, so they do more GIS and section corner stuff. There was some differences in that. I think it's just how it's put together. Ann's got that, but to compare it, it'd probably be best for you to ask her how it compares to theirs, and there's differences in all of them.
My understanding from Wagner is they're not going to say that any position necessarily needs to be an SO position. That's basically from what we got from and again, I'm going back to what we did with the highway department just a few months ago. That was my understanding from Addie, was that was at the discretion of the county, the council and the commissioners to approve that change. The council to approve the change, commissioners approve the salary ordinance as well as the council. So I don't know that, I mean, again, I'm just worried we're going to spin their wheels.
Yeah, that's why I say if you don't need to, don't do it.
Waste some time and money
Yeah.
that I don't think we need to. But so I think that decision can be made unless Joel has anything questioning that. That was my walkthrough with the highway department. So I feel pretty confident that can be done.
I will add that Wagner Irwin Shealy did give us a breakdown on the assistant highway superintendent as both what the salary range would be. I don't know they did give an SO amount, and the motion that Susan made for that was within $1,000 of the SO amount. So they did give, I don't know if it's an LTC or what it was, but they gave an LTC, let's say that's what it was, position, range, and they gave an SO range. And we went with the SO to get it closer to being more competitive. And I think that's what we're being recommended here to consider.
Right. And
Steve?
I actually think if the pay was up, we probably had a good candidate for it, but, it's, we probably could have kept Taylor if we would have raised it, but it couldn't be done that quick. So, I mean.
Did any of us know that she was seeking, and this was?
No, not really. I mean,
Prospect.
she just had that opportunity to flow it, and it just fell in her lap, and, she checked it out, and, it was a good opportunity for her. I mean, I can't blame her. That's a salary in Newcastle, an average salary, $29,000.
And I have a feeling
rates.
this is going to be a regular phenomenon because with what our taxing rate is, we cannot be competitive with the private sector. I don't know if any public sector, you mentioned Monroe County, they have like 7 times our assessed evaluation, and I'm sure they can afford, without batting an eye, more than we can afford.
He was having the same trouble even down there, which they could pay more. He was having trouble getting GIS, so they had to bump theirs up even more to tantalize somebody to even look at it.
And
So
speaking with the surveyor from Hancock County and Huntington County, the ones that
Yeah.
received the awards, they're dealing with the same thing
yeah,
everywhere.
So
Yeah.
Steve, can I ask a question then?
Sure.
Because since we did this with the highway superintendent, because they had similar issues with that, is there a possibility of a shared position between multiple counties in this? Is that something that could even happen? I mean,
yeah. It's something we've looked at, and you know, due respect, I've looked at that, but this person stays. I mean, Debbie does splits in her office, and I think we got one up in Jody's, and they stay busy, and it's more like they have to have their own right there doing that, and then this is more around the whole county, and they stay busy. I mean,
well, what I'm talking about is could you share with another county like?
yeah,
we
that's
did?
what I was getting to. Is
I think the
I've talked to
workload
other
is
ones,
too
and they
heavy.
said the workload is so bad that you're going to overload somebody so bad they won't stay up. The big thing is when you get 2 of them going together, who's going to get what first and in order and everything like that. Because 911's the most important with sheriffs. You know, we put that at the top. He's got a big job coming up with Spillman's. That's what worries me more than anything, that we get somebody or get something going, that we get him taken care of when he gets ready to do it. And that is I agree with you on that, but I don't think it'll be done. Just
My only concern is even if we bump it to 70,000, we still might not be competitive because our benefits are.
I think we will be. I think
we
we'll be,
don't.
yeah. I would go back, if I could get it to that, I would go back to this young man because he doesn't graduate until January. So I was trying to get him to hire him part-time until January because he works at Polis at the GIS over there. Very good, clean-cut young man, military, and he's just getting out of college. But I was going to try to hire him part-time, then put him in full-time. But it just, you know, I could tell by when we interviewed him. And Ann was in on the interview at the end, and she could just shake her head because it just wasn't going to hit him. I mean, they've got every opportunity in the world. I mean, it's just sitting right there waiting on him. And he'll probably go till January. He'll already have a job, and they'll probably be paying $70,000 to $80,000 like that. I hate to say it, but it's
Is this a job that can be done remotely?
But yes, and that was something
that
that
a
we were
selling
gonna,
point?
Yeah, and that's sort of a thing that we could do with that. Didn't tantalize some people sometimes because they don't have to come every day. So that's what we were looking at, maybe working that in, and if we could get it up and all for that, maybe 2 days a week. But we want them to come in though when they need to work. I mean, you know, do things that we've got big projects and everything, but they can do all that from home. That's what Taylor's doing. I mean, we're just emailing. She does it, kicks it back to us, you know. But like Butch said, we got spoiled, real spoiled with her. So I appreciate the time.
Hey, Steve, how many hours is Taylor putting in?
She's put probably, I don't know. She's already done it on the weekends. I can't really tell you how many hours because I haven't paid that much attention. I think she had 40 hours in doing it over the weekends in the last 2 weeks. So,
Here's another question for you.
yeah.
Is there an opportunity to hire, how disruptive would it be to have, say, 2 part-time people you're paying a pretty good hourly rate to because you don't have to pay the insurance on them? I don't know.
It'd be a little hard. I mean, I look at it from being in my office because you might have him come in and talk to one of them one day and he starts that project and then he comes in and the next person's working and don't know nothing about it. And he's not up on it, so he's got to go back and figure out what's going on, and that's the time-consuming part of it because when you got one person like Taylor, it went just like, you know. I had SJCA or USI in there the other day because they're doing their section corner project. He was very impressed with the way she had the breakdown on the wall. And he could tell we had a good person we lost. So,
Okay.
And I just truthfully think that it needs to be here full-time. I don't know of any other county that shares, which is a good question because I thought about that. But I don't think there's any counties that share the GIS, you know?
No. I was just thinking of for IT services.
Yeah.
A lot of people do high hourly rate on the side.
Yeah.
And then not, okay.
Yeah, so I did, you know, anybody's got questions, email me.
I doubt if the person you interviewed that's coming out of college will want a part-time, non-insurance job when they'll be afforded many higher-paid, full-time, with fringe benefit jobs. Is my guess. Now, maybe, I know Penny left, but maybe this is something to go through, make my move, get somebody remote to come in here, but we have to pay them a better, more competitive salary, or they won't even consider it. So, Mr. Job Classification Malakote, we talked about a meeting in January. Would this be something that we need to tentatively address now, or do we want to plan a December job classification? Do we want Bobby to do like Wagner Irwin Shealy did for the highway assistant superintendent and give us a range for both?
I have a different memory of that than you do, so I don't remember an SO number. I
There was.
remember a public market number.
No, there was an SO number.
Okay.
I've got it at
I'll
home.
pull the report because I got it too.
Okay.
So I don't remember that, so I had a different memory of that.
Okay.
But I do remember there being because the number that was on there, they said was correct.
It was.
It was correct.
I had a spreadsheet that had an SO number, and it was it was
Yeah, but
61,500.
from the Wagner report?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't remember seeing
Yes,
that from Wagner.
I do, and I had it at budget hearing time when the motion was made, and we were, Susan's motion was within 1,000 of the SO report. So they did do that, because I had the spreadsheet, so it's up to Bobby whether she wants to follow through with asking Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy. What's it currently classified as far as job classification? What category do we? Okay. You might ask Wagner and Shealy what it would be for an SO.
I guess my only question is I'm not sure we'll get anything probative from Wagner if Steve's already given us a number. Because here's the thing. They give us numbers all the time that are drastically different. And what Wagner is going to give you is the number comparative to other counties our size and our donut. And I can promise you, if you pull the numbers, they were very close. If you pull your reports, this position was one that was not way out of line. So they're going to come back very close. They're not going to come back anywhere close to the 70. I can tell you that. They're not even going to get in the realm of that because Steve is asking for the council to pay this position to public market rate, not public employee rate. And those are two wholly different things. Because, Bobby York over there sitting as she would be the equivalent of an accounts paying manager at a multi-million-dollar corporation, would have a salary of nearly double what she probably makes. She'd probably have a six-figure salary at a position like that.
And I think that's
So
the difference between private and
It
public.
absolutely is, but what I'm saying is I'm not sure the Wagner report would bring any probative value to the situation. If the council is interested in entertaining Steve's, if the council wants to only hold to the public employee rate, that's what you're going to get from Wagner.
Well, we're going to
So-
run into this with every position in the near future.
We've all been saying that for the past several months that we're in this boat. So, that's the Pandora's box we open.
So what is your suggestion, Chad?
Well, I guess my question is if the council is willing to entertain comparative to a public employee or only the public employee, or if they're looking for the open market, then, there's two separate pathways here. If the council is willing to entertain that type of a dollar figure comparative to what you would see on the open market, then you go down, then a decision could be made now and the salary ordinance would have to be changed in January, if I'm correct, I think, right, Debbie? And then if not, then if they want to stay closer to in line of a public employee that works for the government, then we should probably go down the path of Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy and get their reassessment of this position.
So I just had a thought, and sorry, Steve, if you want to come on down. It was really to ask Steve a question, but I'll put it out there. So the assistant superintendent was made an SO, and I think he makes roughly $63,000, right? 60?
62.5.
Okay,
yes, yes.
62.5. My question to you, Steve, is do you think a 62.5 or 63
It's a start.
would
It's something to
get?
go with. I mean,
It sounds a lot better than 47.
Yeah, so I mean, you just got to shoot it out there. We don't know until we get it out there. I mean, I would take that, if I had that, I would go back to this young man and offer it to him, if we can do that. I understand where you're going with the Wagner Chili, because he's right, it's going to be, we all understand it's going to be set at a certain pace,
Right.
our county size. It's just we're working at a different ballgame, totally different ballgame. And I mean, if we don't get anybody, we're just going to have to go to Snyder and do it, and I don't know what we're going to, I hate to end up paying more out per hour for a year's worth of work than we could hire somebody.
Well,
And have them on
it doesn't
staff
make
right here, because it's
fiscal
it's hard-
sense either.
it's- Yeah.
I said that doesn't make fiscal sense either, so.
The only difference, and sorry, I'm the numbers guy, is the highway department works 40 hours, and I think this position's a 35.
I understand. I wasn't, I mean, I was just throwing something, a number
understand.
out
I
there to get
just-
to a number. I mean, I'm not being, I'm just throwing a number out there, whether it's 40, 35,
Well,
I don't.
62.5 at 35 hours a week is
And that's
great improvement over
Well, you gotta be-
47 that
You got to
we're,
understand, when I interview somebody, I interview them with the possibility of what you're going to get total. It's not what you're making a year. It's what insurance you're going to have to get. You've got to take your longevity, you got to take retirement, you got to take all this stuff, put it together, and give them an hourly figure. That's going to be up there. It sounds good when you get that figure.
our package is a little bit more competitive when you put the whole.
Well,
thing
that's what I'm
together.
saying, but that's what you got to tell them. This young man didn't, they don't comprehend that. I mean,
Most people out of college, they don't weigh that, nor are they as concerned with, they're usually healthy and they're not as concerned with life insurance or health insurance,
Right.
as they are when they get closer to retirement. They didn't come up very concerning.
you got to include all the perks with it to show you're really getting a good deal.
I think that's a point well taken.
Yeah, so if you come up with something, that'd be appreciative. I just, know that we're looking at it.
We do have to be out of here in about 25 minutes for another meeting. What council, your comments, druthers, how to proceed from this point?
I don't know. I still have this, I know it's not ideal, but my husband does IT work, and I know that an hourly rate, a good hourly rate, you could get someone for a good hourly rate that didn't actually work for the county. I don't know. I need to think about it, because this Pandora's box. I don't know. I need to think about it.
To me, the main Pandora's box is we're going to start taking each one of these positions that we can't fill and start comparing them with the private sector, which we will never be able to do fairly for their entire employees who are all underpaid.
So what do we do if over the next 12 months, if we get 5 or 6 of these requests for critical positions?
I think we very well may.
Okay, but let me finish my thought real quick. So what about the employees that are already employed, who are now working for half of the wage that the people they're sitting beside are working for? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just really very concerning.
that's my only thought, is that in this increase, we make this person higher paid than any other director, department head, elected official, pretty much with the exception of the highway superintendent. We've got the guy down here who runs our 911 who's going to make considerably less, that I would argue has more skill probably than this. No, I've never met the young man, but I'm sure he's awesome. But putting Butch's skills up in his position versus a young man straight out of college is night and day for me. So it's very difficult. You've got a past sheriff, a guy who's been in law enforcement for decades, who knows his job, knows his ins and outs, and has probably helped or saved many of us many times in this world. So, that's where it's difficult, but I also understand the position we're in. But I see where Susan's having a lot of difficulty with it, because I've got to look here at this guy who's dedicated decades of service to the community and say, hey, I'm sorry, but I'm going to pay this kid straight out of college $15,000 more than you make. So, I mean, that's where sitting in this seat, Steve, it's very difficult. And that's why I understand why she's arm wrestling with it, because I'm in the same boat. That's tough. And I appreciate your letter, Butch, and I appreciate your being so willing and understanding. And I'm sorry you're just sitting on the front row, so I pick on you. Because I do respect you, and I respect what you've done for this community over those decades. So that's why it's hard sitting in this seat to figure out what's the right move, because there's a lot of people just like Butch. There's people in every office. You've got Linda sitting over here that's been here since the building was built almost and dedicated herself to this community. Sorry, Linda.
You
Love
should
you,
see the look
Linda.
on her face right now.
You can smack me in a little bit. But no, that's just, I mean, that's the difficulty sitting from these chairs. When you see this institutional knowledge, the dedication and the service that all of these people have poured in, Debbie, Jenny, I mean.
It's absolutely right.
the
We had
tough
that
part.
discussion in September 30th up here in this meeting with the people that showed up, which I think we had about everybody.
Yep.
And that's the discussion we had.
So what,
We're all grown adults and we know this.
okay.
Everybody deserves it. These elected officials are paid a lot less than what that position will be paid. There's other positions paid more than elected officials. We do our job. That's why we suggested that with this. We said, do you agree or disagree? Tell me now. This is open doors. Everybody agreed. We need this. That's why they said, we have no problem with it. Now, there'll be some that'll disagree, and I understand that. That's their opinion. It's just the position that we're at. If they don't do it, they don't do it. We'll just deal with what we got. But it's a hard time, and it's a real big change for you guys, I know, with this money. I'm just throwing it out on the table as a fact, because I don't want anybody thinking we're not looking for somebody and we're not getting anybody. Because I've tried and done my dangest to go, I'm hunting everywhere for somebody. And when you only have one person show up for an interview, clean-cut young man can probably go anywhere he wants to go. You know, I mean, it's difficult on our end trying to get people. We're losing them out of the county everywhere, and I know it's a hard situation. But we did discuss that. So I understand what you're saying, because all these elected officials deserve more. All the county employees, I wish we could pay them all what they really deserve. So it just is what it is, I know.
And the other difficult position we're in is we literally budgeted every penny of our
No.
budget for next year
So-
to be able to give what we were able to give. So
Which is
if
less
we,
than 3%.
if we did this, even this $15,000 increase, that's $15,000 this council's going to have to cut next year from somewhere in the budget. And so and we already cut to the point it hurts in some departments. And so it's a difficult, but you know what? This is what we all talked about for months now. We've been saying this all through our budget session, all through our meetings that we had in here with employees and everything else. We've talked about how the struggle that we're going to have, because none of the county employees make close to what it would on the private sector, yourself included.
Yep. So
Yeah, our average department head's like less than 50,000 or hovering 50,000. And we're talking about someone out of college getting between 62 and 70,000 is what I'm hearing. There's no way to make it fair. There's no way for us to be competitive with our tax rate the way it is, with our assessed evaluation the way it is. We just, we can't compete with Hamilton County or any of the donut counties, and yet that's what we're compared with Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy. Right. So we have multiple departments that are saying this is a very important job that needs to be filled ASAP. Whether it's taken up by job classification in December, it's something that we can talk about, but we need to address sooner than later. And by sooner, I mean within the next month, I think.
I didn't come today to make you do it today. I just came to give you a heads up. We're 6 weeks out. If there's anything we can do, that's fine. If we can't, we move on.
I'm hoping we make a decision by our December meeting.
Yeah,
but
so
it's going to have to be some
you don't have to make a decision
research.
today, but I have that opportunity with this young man maybe to throw him a figure. But if don't, we'll just keep it on Indeed and all the other ones, and if we don't get none, we don't get none. I mean, you can't beg somebody to come in and work it when it's such a the way it is.
If the council doesn't decide to move forward, Steve, I will tell you, we'll put you on this agenda for the job classification meeting next month for sure.
That's
The
fine.
only thing I would really like to hear from all of those department heads who sent the letters and things is, do they have a number? Do they have a suggestion? Do they have a recommendation? Do they have something they feel comfortable with? Because if I could get that type of information, I think the old council would feel better about that.
Right.
So,
I
you
think
know,
that'll be based back
you know,
up
that,
on-
because I want to offer that respect to those folks who took the time to send
Yeah.
the letter and who have, almost all of them poured in decades of, you know, their
Right.
lives into this community. So I want to get that
That's
from
great.
them. I really would. So, but definitely, I mean, we could still, that's up to the rest of this body, but if not, we'll definitely meet with a job classification meeting
Okay.
next month.
Thank you.
And I'll let Ann know.
I have one more question too. A number that I'd be curious about is if you did contract it out, what would it cost?
So
if we-
at 40 hours a month for 12 months, it's 60 grand. And that's where, Steve, you said that over the last, was it 2 weekends or 2 pay periods, she's put in 40 hours of work?
I think the last 2 weekends, somewhere in there. It might be 3 weekends. So, but she's just doing the bare minimum.
Can
We're
you,
we're
yeah.
holding back a lot of stuff and waiting until we get somebody. So she's not doing a full load, so it's hard to predict. It would be hard to predict that, but that's a pretty close figure way you're figuring it. I know how you figured that.
And can you get us the exact amount of hours she has put in over the last month, just so we
Yeah.
can use that and then we
Yeah.
multiply by that 125?
Yes.
It just helps giving me more concrete stuff to look at.
Okay, yep.
So what hourly rate are we paying?
We're paying her 50.
50.
Yeah, no extras, because that's done through Jeff. So we didn't have to do anything. And Joel wrote up a contract with him, so we go through him, so then we don't have to mess with it. So,
I think minimally going to job classification is a good backup.
Because 125 was the Schneider number, right?
35.
One- 135?
What, is that what you?
I've just got bad ears.
35. I was thinking it was 135. Yeah, an hour. Yeah, so, all right, thank you.
Any other discussion on the topic? If not, we have Linda Winchester up on our itinerary, and she Linda, does everybody get a copy of this, what you shared with me, or just me? Okay, why don't you come up to and kind of explain what you're requesting? It looks like part of it is moving the part-time from $14.50 to $15, as we recommended for consideration for department heads to consider, and that 50 cent an hour increase.
Okay, I'll start out with every year I have to come before you by statute to allow the part-time positions to be paid out of the record perpetuation fund. And that's what I did the last 2 years, and that's what this document is about here. And it states how much for each person and gives a whole description of what you do, how you can do it, and all that. But I have to bring that in front of you this year for next year, even though I won't be here, but Lisa will, and she needs the same thing. So that's that document, that's the certification.
Okay, this says, so the council knows, it says, I hereby request that the council use $42,224 from the fund, which is your perpetuation fund, for calendar year 2023 as follows: salary and county match for Medicare and Social Security for 2 part-time deputy recorders at $21,112 each, for that total of $42,224 pursuant of an Indiana code that you list, is made solely for the 2023 calendar year. And as I recall, a year ago, you made this same statement that you say is required by that Indiana code by law to be able to pay for it out of your perpetuation fund.
Correct.
And that's that. And your other one's a part-time one.
Right. You, during budget hearings, you gave all the part-time people 50-cent raise.
That's the recommendation that they
That's the
consider.
recommendation.
And you're wanting to do that.
I did the salary ordinance for Debbie at the same time, brought it along, and that's what it's about.
And Debbie has a copy of that that's dated October 25th, 2022. So that's your two part-time employees at $15 an hour versus the current $14.50 an hour. Okay.
So I'll move to approve Linda's proposal.
Chad's moved to,
Second.
and somebody was about to second it. Susan. And it was seconded by Susan before I interrupted her.
And I will just make the comment, my comment was made in love, Linda,
I bet.
Well, there
and
you go.
respect.
Thank you.
And he's not going to be here after.
No, he's leaving.
You can
It's
pick on
Irish.
me all you want.
Yeah, he knows I'm leaving also, so we know.
You can
It's down.
commiserate together or go to that new bar in the new hotel, whatever, on January 1. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you,
Thank
Linda.
you.
That was fairly painless. And we have Newcastle Land Bank. I told you 3:45. Well, it's closer to 4:45, but we have to be out of here before 5. So we have Jerry Walden. I thought maybe Mike Broyles would be here, but you're carrying the show yourself. Jerry, you've got a successful Newcastle Land Bank, and you want to share why it's so and maybe suggest we consider it.
Yeah, and it's a good thing because, you know, former educator turned politician, you have me on the time limit here because we meet at 5 o'clock and we have 3 of us here who go to those meetings. There's a feeling of our commissioners that since the county commissioners were involved transferring some properties over to the city, within the city limits, that we should share the information about the Newcastle Land Bank Commission. I'd like to give you a little background history on it, where we started, where we are at this point. I represent the city on the Henry County Housing Committee. Jeff Frey was a big supporter of bringing a land bank not only to Newcastle but to the county. And that's where this all started, was from the Henry County Housing Committee. Back last December, the city council did pass the ordinance for the Newcastle Land Bank Commission. The hard work of Joel putting together a blueprint for us to follow the state statutes. Finally, in April, we pretty much got it up and running. We've gone through some changes with our commissioners on it. Lisa's one of our current commissioners, and Joel is our legal advisor. There are 9 of us commissioners on the committee. Starting in basically April, I'm very pleased to announce that we were over $45,000 after starting at ground zero. We did receive a grant through the Henry County Foundation of $5,000, and hopefully Joel's going to have some good news for me today at our meeting. I know we have 2 more applications that we're going to be looking over. So with the help of the commissioners, taking these properties off the tax sale, turning them back over to the city, we're currently at 10 properties that we've been able to move to ownership, which puts them back on the tax base. Basically, it's properties that are adjacent to the current properties that these owners have, extending their yards out, playgrounds, garages, et cetera, et cetera. I've been surprised myself at how quickly this has transpired. I'm very pleased with it. I'm very pleased to be able to give you this good news from, the city's going through the same thing that you guys are. It's sad, but it's reality. But this is some good news for us. I would like to invite you, we meet the 3rd Thursday of each month, 5 o'clock in the city council chambers. Anyone's more than welcome. And the good news is, if it lasts longer than 30 minutes now, since we're so organized, it's a long meeting. Right, Lisa? So I'd like to invite you to it. We've had great participation. Kenny, Dale, and Jeff usually attend, and we bounce questions off about contractors wanting to build or buy the properties, homeowners. So we have 4 realtors here in the community that when we have a structure on a property and we put it up for sale, it rotates from one to the other. It's really working well. And I know there's some interest in starting a Henry County land bank, and we are very, very, very more than willing to share how we've transpired this into an actually working machine. I know the statutes would be a little bit different, but it's going very well. Any questions that you might have?
So what's their main source of getting the 45,000 you're alluding to? Where does that money come from? In the sale of land? Or?
It's the sale of the properties. It's basically city-owned properties that we're dealing with now. The lots are $1,500, but we do negotiate those. If it has a structure on it, we rely on the realtors to come up with a price put upon that, and they still make their part off of it. It's really working well, Ken. And
these are existing vacant properties?
Mm-hmm. Primarily, and yeah.
That's probably sold for over, $24,000 a minute. Got a fairly decent price.
Yeah.
Several of the ones that have structures are not worth.
The one that we sold the most for has been rehabbed and is currently on the market now. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, that was going to be my only question. I wasn't it a requirement you guys sell to like owner occupied, or you just sell it to anybody? Invest, you know?
The good thing about the land bank, Chad, is there are hoops that you don't have to jump through. We can pass through those. It's a very easy process. I'm really flabbergasted how well it's worked. Yeah. We're trying to do away with outsiders buying these properties up, getting back into the cycle, getting back into the cycle, getting back into the cycle.
So you won't have all those mowing fees you have to keep paying in the city?
Yes, you're exactly
Because
right.
as someone who invests in real estate property, that's the biggest problem we have is these outsiders that use these REITs and they buy up properties and never touch them and then try to.
Exactly our point.
Yeah, Chad and I have had this conversation before. I guess maybe not a proper term, but out of state, what becomes slumlords or people that buy them cheap on a sheriff's sale and then do nothing, and they grow up with weeds and trash and various things that maybe shouldn't be
I would
happening.
hate to guess how much the city of Newcastle has in mowing liens in a year, but it's tens of thousands.
You
of
don't want
dollars.
to know.
It may be 6 figures. It's
Yes.
huge.
I suspect a lot more than the county does, but you are their counselor, so you would maybe advise us to, or the commissioners or whoever, to seriously research this as an option.
With the county land bank, yeah, we discussed it. With the county land bank would essentially be able to function in any portion of the county except for a city or town that has its own. So essentially, if you did a county land bank, I believe you have to have representatives from towns that are appointed to serve as directors of the land bank. So it would be a land bank that would function in Knightstown, Middletown, Spicing,
So it's,
and unincorporated areas.
okay, so it's not necessarily incorporated and non-incorporated, it's those that have no existing land banks. So,
So it'd be everybody outside of the limits of the city of Newcastle.
okay, and they're the only one with a land bank, I take it then?
I think this is really exciting. I think we should be pursuing, and, gathering more information on what this might look like at a county level.
And Betsy, I'm serious. If anyone wants to come to our meetings, look at our paperwork, it's open. And I think we have a solid commission now. Lisa was working her tail end off, and now we've gotten her some help to get out on the web and do some things electronically to do some more advertising. So,
You've presented this already, I think, to the commissioners?
commissioners, yes.
Okay. Joel, is this something that's more of the bailiwick of the commissioners and the?
I believe the commissioners have to adopt the ordinance. I believe the council in its discretion can provide funding. I don't believe the city council provides any funding.
We zero.
Okay. So this was more FYI, kind of like Penny's update on the hotel, FYI, so constituents, we have some knowledge that this is being considered.
And Ken, I think if you got together with Tom Green, he's the one that's been interested in this. He's attended some of the Henry County Housing Committee meetings. So you might sit down with Tom.
Okay, well,
Okay.
he's going to be here in 10 minutes at our 5 o'clock meeting, so we can do that. Thank you.
I appreciate the time that you allowed me, so thank you.
Thank you for your patience sitting through this. I know Angela council was going to present something the state has come up with affecting that health department. It's going to require a lot more time and effort on her and her staff. She had to leave, I'm sure, and she's got a meeting at 6:30. Our County Board of Health is at 6:30, so she'll probably share that with you in an email. So look for something for Angela. I shared with you an update on the county employee insurance. We're so far so good. I shared that with you a couple of days ago. I think we're going to continue to have to grapple with funds and versus inflation. And we have, as we talked about in our county budget hearings, we have 30 open unfilled positions. We're going to have to grapple with that in 2023 because we have to appropriate monies as if those are positions that we do hire. And until we grapple with that, we're not going to be able to give probably the kind of raises that our employees deserve. So a lot to look forward to or have to grapple with in 2023. Anything else, council or the public? Yes. Well, we moved it up a week to the 15th. And we're going to be facing, and I did talk to Tom Green, I know we do have at least one significant case on the Planning Commission, which is the one that follows us up here at 5. They have reserved for years the third Thursday, and that would put us on the third Thursday. So, council, are we okay with meeting at 3? I thought we'd be done in an hour and a half, and you know how that goes. We meet once a month, and our agenda grows, and the number of concerns grow.
Ken, you're suggesting we would move to December the 15th?
Yes.
Okay.
Week prior?
Okay. I will be traveling for work, but I can Zoom in. So.
Okay, yeah, and if we have any motions, you just have to do it on video. Okay, anybody else have a major conflict, 3 o'clock on the 15th of December? That puts us away from the holidays a little bit. It puts us away from the Planning Commission that follows us up at 5 o'clock. Dale, mark your calendar, the 15th. Okay, thanks for that heads up. I'll talk with Tom again, but I do know we are going to have a meeting because he does anticipate a case coming before the Planning Commission, at least one, and there may be a continuation of another one. So anything else, council, for the good of the cause? If not, we'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Thank you all. Thank you, people in the courtroom.